we are back. Ain't
Back,
ain't that ain't that fancy?
back again. Let me shut off this phone so it doesn't make a noise in the middle of our conversation. Ah,
What do you think about the new intro?
I like the new intro. What was that? I like the breaking glass sound. I'm like, oh, he added breaking glass.
Ooh, yeah. Well, no, see, no, that was the ad, and then we did the intro. So the intro is way shorter. It's like way shorter. So
Sure, it's good. Yeah, we have people
it's
with
good.
microwave attention span, so it's good.
Yeah, yeah. What did you just say? What?
Microwave attention.
What? Say that again. What? Welcome to Focus on You with Phil and Oscar.
And look at the new
Always,
logo. So good looking on the
yeah,
background. It's
yeah,
beautiful.
love it. Yeah, I'm glad you like it, Oscar. Okay,
I
I'm glad
fully
you like
approve.
it. We fully 1,000% and one hundred
At
percent.
least.
At least it is good to be back. We have a great guest, of course, on Focus on You today. And when you meet him, we call him Uncle. We're going to call him Uncle Drew. What do you think?
Uncle Drew.
Uncle Drew. Hey, Uncle Drew. What
That's
you
the uncle you
doing?
go to for
How
advice.
you
He's been
doing?
there, done that.
How you doing, Uncle Drew? Yeah, I'm doing good. How you doing? I'm doing good. Yeah, that's what we're gonna call him, Uncle Drew. But he's going to be joining us today and sharing a little bit. He does a lot with empowering men to be a better version of themselves. So if you got a husband, a brother that's still living with his mom and dad, or, just in general, bad in relationships, whatever you're thinking can be improving to the man in your life, get him on the show right now because we got just the guy for him to listen to. By the way, this is going to be broadcasted on Spotify, iHeartRadio, Google Podcast, Apple Podcast, and you name it, it's going to be there. We also have our YouTube channel, which is Phoenix National Network. You can also check out the PNN station on Spotify and all the other audio platforms. You don't want to miss it. Oscar,
Yes, sir.
what do you plan to do for Christmas?
We got family coming over, so it's going to be all over again, cooking and all the fun stuff that I love to do. I love to eat, I like to cook, and we're going to make some muffins.
Yeah, I like to cook too, man. I'm gonna be making some Cornish hens. I'm looking at Cornish hens this year. We're gonna go hang out with the family on the Saturday because Christmas is on a Monday this year, right?
Mhm.
So it's gonna be fantastic, just to kind of like be able to hang out a little bit. And I'm
Long
sure
weekend.
everybody's excited about that. Yeah, absolutely. What I'm gonna ask those of you who are going to be watching to share your recipes, your Christmas recipes with us. If you're watching on LinkedIn, just type in some of the Christmas recipes that you have coming up this year. We want to do a copycat session. Those of you who put it out there, hey, we might buy you the turkey this year. Who knows?
Good.
Yeah, I love this Christmas is like my favorite time of the year. And I think it's just going to be incredible just to uh see. In fact, Oscar, we got baby girl's first Christmas tree.
Oh, great. Great, great.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. You should have seen her face when I was putting it together. I got the artificial one. I didn't want to get the real one because I didn't want her putting up the little pines in her mouth,
Yep.
you know, because that would have been a no go. But she is, I mean, she was helping putting, I didn't get the glass balls. I got the foam ones,
Yep.
the foam balls. And
Baby proof in the house even during Christmas.
baby proofing the tree. We were baby proofing that Christmas tree like it was nobody's business, man. And she loved it, like literally loved it. So, um, you know, I'm just excited. I love the whole family idea that we do around this time of the year. But other than that, okay, we want to also announce our meetings that we have on Thursdays. Okay, at 8 a.m. It's called the Power Up Breakfast, and that's for inspiring entrepreneurs. What would you say about our morning meetings, Oscar?
I like telling people I go to the pub on Thursday morning.
I
come,
figured.
come
I
join me. Come join me at the pub. And actually, we had Drew on this morning, with a 10-minute presentation, and I believe I said I can't wait till the noon time to get more on what he was talking about, because he hit on some pretty great topics and made everybody like, yeah.
Yeah, no, yeah, he got it going on, man. I didn't even know. Look, let's just go through his site for a second. I know I'm just creating a little excitement here, but this is his website, and he talked about empowering men to be a better version of themselves. And I believe some people sometimes we don't realize how much we can improve until somebody tells us, right? Until somebody kind of gives you an image as to, where you can go and what you can achieve, you don't really realize that you can get there. Am I right, Oscar?
Yeah, and we have the blinders on and we see everything through our little filters, and we need someone from the outside saying, "Hey, there's more to you than you know. How about this? How about this? How about this?" Like, wait a minute, how
He
come
is
nobody
the
told me?
I know exactly. I mean, he's the author of this book. I'll have what she's having, and we're going to talk a little bit about that too, a little bit later on. But without any further ado, we're going to introduce our brother Drew. Drew, jump on in. How are you doing, sir?
Gentlemen, I'm doing well, and I'm practicing, Oscar. I'm looking at the camera so I can look in your eyes, my friend. Practicing. Doing well. It's great to see you too. Great human beings. I'm proud to be in the same presence.
Drew, man, listen, we are so glad to have you on with us today. We had such a great meeting this morning. It was hard for me to even get off because you were hitting some really hot points about where men are, the suicidal rate when it comes to men in our society today. I think there's a pressure. There's a level of pressure that we go through. I mean, some of it necessary, some of it unnecessary. But I want to start off with that, and then Oscar is going to, of course, ask his questions. But tell us, how did you get into such a area of kind of like helping men out?
I tell people it happened by accident, and it happened by accident, and it didn't. I believe this is where I'm meant to be. I have to say that the adversity I've had over my entire life, I went from having that victim and blame mindset to realizing now that I'm where I am because I had to go through that adversity, and I become stronger, a stronger man because of that adversity, not despite it. And there's a big difference. And I when I tell my story, I mean, it could go back to when I was in diapers, because by the time you're 7 years old, your belief system is really formed for you, and it's by our parents and our parents' parents, and it's not their fault that they taught us to be who we are. It's because that's what they learned and they're passing it down. It's that when your belief system is formed by the age of 7 to 10, and it's even more solidly formed by the age of 18, you're really living other people's life, other people's belief systems, and habits are developed over the years. And for me, it took me to, I was about 50 to, and what I call it, I had to have the 2x4 hit me upside the head to wake me up that there was a better way to live. So when I tell my story, I start with July of 2015, when I was informed by my best friend that my wife was leaving me. We had been married 15 years. We had three kids, 7, 9, and 11 at the time, and it blindsided me. And as I see now, many men are blindsided because there's different languages being spoken between men and women. We speak different languages, and we have to be in agreement now that men and women do speak differently. It's science. It's proven. We have to embrace the fact that we need each other, and that it's important to learn the thinking language of each gender for each of us to enhance communication and relationships. I didn't do that. I didn't learn that. And so we went through 3 years of mediation. We wanted to avoid the court system in New Jersey. It's not kind to men and children. And because of that, it took 3 years to go through mediation. The one thing that my ex wife and I do well and did well at the time was co parent. So we had our kids' best interest in mind. So that was a blessing. In those 3 years, though, I was working off of my emotional ego, and she was working off of her rational ego. I truly believe that she had her mind made up for the divorce, where I thought I could change her mind. And that's where I was wrong and didn't realize it. I made a lot of decisions out of emotion during those 3 years. And when I got out of it, I remember walking out of the Hackensack, New Jersey courthouse with a piece of paper that said I was divorced. So that was the divorce decree, and I call that legal closure. The other closure really doesn't ever really happen. We just put layers and layers of memory on top of those wounds. So I walk out in April 3rd of 2018 with this piece of paper saying I'm divorced, and I'm thinking, you know what? Enough with the blame mindset. Enough with the victim mindset. I'm going to rise up. This is going to be chapter 2 of my life. Now, 6 months later, I turned 50 years old, October 6th, 2018. I threw myself a 50th birthday party. I invited people from all aspects of my life, and they all showed up. Best day of my life. Now, as my mother says, man plans and God laughs. Because shortly after that, three what I call faith shaking moments happened to me that changed my world forever. The first was I was fired from my job. I won't get into the details. I did what I thought was right, and 10 days later I was brought into human resources and relieved of my duties for a leadership change. And as an at-will employee, that is what it is. Escorted to my car, couldn't go to my office. The manager in my office had to ship all my stuff home. And 7 weeks later on LinkedIn, it said to congratulate the person who she was elevated to my position. And I'll just stop at that. As a man who looked at his self identity and based it on my relationship with my wife and my job, I lost both in 6 months. So I'm a shattered man. And 10 weeks, 10 days later, actually, on October 29th of 2018, I'm bringing my 14-year-old son to therapy session. And customarily, he had me come in with him. This time he asked me to wait in the waiting room. Again, I'm thinking, that's great. He's getting to be comfortable with her. About 10 minutes later, the therapist comes out crying, asks me to come in. I go in. I see my son crying. He says, I'm sorry, Daddy. Turns out she noticed that he wasn't acting himself. Had to ask him that difficult question: can you promise me you won't harm yourself in the next 2 weeks? And he said, I cannot promise that. Unbeknownst to me, the night before, I'm watching TV. He's in the master bathroom, what I think is taking a shower. Thankfully, he was on the phone with his girlfriend. He had made an attempt on his life with a little razor, but she stopped him. She talked him down, thank God. At that point, I had to join my ex-wife, his mother, and we had to get him help. Now, the help he needed was an off-site facility where he would stay overnight, and they didn't have a bed available to December 8th. So for 40 days, was with my son nonstop. I didn't sleep. Told him my job is to make sure he's safe as a father. Fast forward, so now you have the divorce, you have the job firing, and now I feel that I'm failing my son, right? I blame
And
the
this is all in a matter of 6 months.
6 months, man. You're talking about divorce, blame my wife, the job firing, blame my boss, now my son. And Christmas Eve, my dad unexpectedly gets sick and passed away. So April to January, 9 months, all of that happened. And I was a broken man. And I won't get into more of the details, but basically, it took about till last August where I woke up and I realized I'm not living this way anymore. There's a better way to live. And I realized I started telling my story. I started opening up. And the more I told my story, the more I healed from within. And the more I told my story, the more others told me their story, and they started healing. So that's why I got into this, and it's been structured only about a year that I've been doing this, but I dove in head first, and it's really all I'm focusing on is to get men to start opening up because we're killing ourselves slowly.
Um, Oscar.
Yeah, and I heard this before from you, but every time I hear it, I'm thinking, how do you deal with this much crap being dumped in your life in
Mhm.
such a short amount? I mean, people go through this, but it's usually spaced out, so you have time to heal and
Right.
rationalize and everything.
Or
But
one
you
at a
got it
time.
all. You got the dump truck pulled up and just had it all dumped in your lap. And
Yeah.
like you said, it took you until this August to
Mhm.
really. So, how did you start healing? What flipped it for you in August, saying, "All right, I tried this."
All right, all right. So when we're talking August, we're talking of 2022. So what ended up happening, after Dad died, um, on his birthday, which was about it was November 30th of 2018, he told me he was proud of me, and that was the beginning of my shift because I knew he was, and I said, Dad, I know you're proud of me, so why are you telling me this now? And he said, I don't know how you're doing it, Drew. He said, first the divorce and then the job, and now Nick, you're still taking care of Matthew and Emma, and you come here every day to check on your mother and me. I don't know how you're doing it. Now, this was the key thing. He said, I know you wanted to have your own company your entire life, and I know I told you not to. My dad was with IBM for 35 years, so I did what he did. Tried to stick with the same industry. I was in healthcare for 24 years, loyalty, all that. He said, do what's going to make you happy. Your mother and I will support you no matter what. And as a 50-year-old man, I started crying. I hugged him. I said, thanks, Dad. And that's when I started Profit Compassion. The thing is, my intent was to start a healthcare consulting company. And I was going to educate caregivers on how to effectively communicate with patients and families to navigate the plan of care so patients can leave the hospital healthier than when they get there, which is the opposite happening now. When my dad died, guys, my dream died, and I did not start my own company. I had this LLC hanging out there in space. I I realized that in order to get through this and not kill myself, literally kill myself, which I now call the caving in stage, I needed some kind of bridge to get me from caving into coping in life. Just coping. I just wanted to survive, not thrive. And it was clarity of purpose in my life was the key. And I knew that if I looked inside myself, which is I recommend that to people when they're in a better state. If I looked inside myself, my heart, my head, and my gut were going to tell me to kill myself because I'm talking to the same person. I had to look outside myself. I looked in the eyes of my three children and my mother, and I said, I am going to be here on this earth to get them through this. All right. So what I did, and I don't recommend this to men. What I did is I did what society tells men to do. I sucked it up. I manned up. I did not show emotion. I did not ask for help. And I pushed my support systems aside and I plowed through to help the four of them. That's not how I got through this and thriving. That got me to just the coping stage, helping others. And that's the good message. Living by service got me out of this because I stopped worrying about myself and I thought about my kids and my mom. That got me just into the coping stage, guys. From there, I took a deep breath and I said, there's so much out there that's more an opportunity than a barrier. Drew, you've got to change your mindset. Be more aware. And I started self-reflecting. And I realized that I was 50% accountable for what happened to me in my marriage, what happened to me in the job, what happened with my son, and what happened with my dad. I've got to take ownership for my behavior and for my thoughts and stop the blame game. So that's the first thing I did. Stop blaming myself and start taking accountability for my actions. And in starting to reflect and be more aware, oh my God, the world looked so much different, guys.
Incredible. and 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 I've known you for a few years now, and like I
Mhm.
said, every time I hear this, it's brand new and just brings up like how does he do it? So
Yeah.
you're taking care of other people
Yeah.
and just the coping, and then you realize, who's taking care of me?
Exactly.
I was like,
And
where's
that was right about the time I met you, Oscar, because when I gave up the dream of starting my healthcare consulting company, I received a phone call. It was all about, do you want to buy a franchise? So I jumped into buying a franchise because I didn't know what else to do. It was my way of still having my own company and being able to do what Dad gave me the blessing to. It wasn't what I wanted to do. I didn't know at the time. That I met you through that time, Oscar. I did it for 3.5 years, but I was really sleepwalking life. I was just doing just to do, and COVID hit, and I had just been starting to progress in that job ownership in the franchise. And COVID to me, yes, it was. I wish it never happened. There are things, silver linings that came out of it. I was forced to kind of switch how I did my business consulting with the franchise, and I had to network virtually. And that's when I met you, Oscar, and met Phil. And by having to change the way I did things and get to meet people across the globe, not just the U.S., I realized there are some great human beings out there. Where when we were locked down, and that's another story,
Mhm.
you can't isolate human beings. We're not intended for that. And everything was negative. And I'm thinking, I only know people in New Jersey, and now I only know people in my home. It was negative, man. And honestly, if I wasn't forced to meet people across the globe virtually, I wouldn't be here now. So in meeting people, I started to tell my story. With the story I just told you, I told it to anybody who would listen. And guys, and this is the key, I started to heal from within. It was cathartic. And when I started realizing, I started writing my book basically. I met an editor virtually, and we started writing the book. And the way we wrote the book wasn't pen to paper. It was Zoom recorded and Otter transcribed. So I'm telling my story to her, and she's replaying it, and then it transcribes my voice onto my paper. It's my words, and I'm reading, and I'm freaking healing. And I'm telling the story, and men and women are starting to say, "Wow!" And they're tearing up, and they start telling me stories that they say they never told anybody before, and they're crying and they're healing in front of my face. And so last August, that pivotal moment, I walked away from the franchise. I breached a 10-year contract, and I started working on men because I realized if I can get men to start sharing their story and asking for help, they're going to start healing from within with their own tools. That's what really was my huge thing because I've always wanted to live in kindness and service. I just didn't know how to do it without getting taken advantage of. Now I feel stronger inside about myself. And now I can step outside myself and teach others how I healed and then help them teach themselves how to heal with the tools that's already inside of us. So I don't know if that answers your question, but it was an iterative process. There wasn't one thing that I
Oh,
did.
absolutely, absolutely. I mean, it seems to me that a lot of us go through that journey,
Mhm.
and it's not an easy one. I mean, I think that you're really kind of bringing home the fact that it's not something that you just kind of like get over,
No.
right? It's a process, and you have to willingly say to yourself, I'm going to go through this process,
Mhm.
and I'm going to survive this process, right?
Absolutely.
You
Absolutely.
know, tell us a little bit about how do you help your clients get through like difficulties like this?
Absolutely. Uh, Finally, I realized that I give a lot away for free. Um, yes, I've suffered, but there's purpose in the pain, and my wisdom and experience. I give that away to people, and I don't necessarily give them a roadmap. This is what you have to do because Drew's way helped for work for Drew. Phil's way is going to work for Phil. Oscar's way is going to work for him. So what I do now is first and foremost, I have a webinar that I do for free for men called "Get Over Yourself: How to Use the Caveman Formula to Overcome Self Sabotage," and that's the 10-minute version I did for you guys this morning. And that's really a way to introduce myself to men in the community. And I mean, of course, the phone call and the Zoom starts it because we kind of break down walls and get to know each other personally. But I start with that webinar because the webinar, I talk about um, not just what helped me get through it, but the pain points we have in life that some we're not aware of and some we are. Once that webinar is done, I offer men a 10 to 15-minute call just to talk, to ask them what they got out of that, what's bothering them now, and what topic they would like to hear about. And with those answers, I extend them an olive branch and say, if you want to get another call to see how I can help you, that'd be great. As it proceeds, I run a men's group. You go from the group for the webinar, which is more general basis. The men's group is called Tribal Stoics. I run Monday 10 a.m. Eastern, and we talk about the Stoicism philosophy of men need to harness their emotion rather than suppress it. And we get into the whole philosophy and virtues and whatnot with that. That men's group is donation based. So people pay the value that they believe is necessary. We don't want to exclude any men. From that men's group, they have the option to do one-on-one coaching with me. I'm a mindset certified coach, mindset mastery certified coach, where we touch on not just the stoicism stuff, but more being aware of who we are and how to actually stop bad habits and create new ones. I also I'm going to be doing a workshop where I can break it down group wise, and I do it one-on-one too, on how to apply the solution to the problem. And then, geez, my biggest thing is we're going to be doing some men's retreats on some islands, because I always felt I was a man by myself on an island suffering silently. And I realized that, everybody is suffering. Let's stop suffering in silence. I want to bring a convention to an island. So when we ask to practice what we're learning about, you can go out the doors to a freaking palm tree instead of a busy hotel room. So there's a way to do more. But for me, the door's open for free for the webinar, and you can get as much out of me as you want as you progress on your journey. So
That's incredible. I love that. I love that idea of a retreat, a men's retreat, because, you know, um, men usually, when they get together and you've established that area of trust,
right.
we get a real chance to peel away, the ogre,
Oh yeah.
if you want to call it that. I have many layers. I'm like an onion.
Mm-hmm. Yep, that's Shrek.
Yeah,
Yep, you
and
got it.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
We all start shrekking out, and like,
Yeah.
okay, and but it's what happens after,
Yeah.
and the healing that happens after. It makes us better husbands. It makes us, better fathers,
Hmm.
better sons. And I believe that we need more of that.
Yes.
We need a lot more of that. But I want to also talk about your podcast,
Yes.
because I was just looking at that, and I see a few of your different topics here, um, from caving in to crushing it. What inspired those kind of subjects?
Well, when I was writing the book, I did develop what I call the cope paradigm to coming through stronger. It turns out being the book is really about Drew of 2023 educating Drew of 1999 to 2020. And what I did in the book is which why the podcast is called From Paving into Crushing It, is the cope paradigm is in order to get from those stages, from caving in to coping to crushing it, you've got to go through the clarity of purpose in your life. You've got to seize opportunities and massive action. You've got to progress. And as you progress, you celebrate those small wins, and then you evolve, COPE. And so then, that's really what developed my whole idea from caving in to crushing it. And the podcast, I interview men and women who have who have embraced the adversity and who acknowledged it and decided not to give up, decided to move forward. So when I invite somebody on, there's number one, they've got to be a good human being. And I assess that through networking, relationship building. These are all people who I have spoken to at least 3 or 4 times before I invited them on. Number two, they have to have had some defining moment in their life. Now, it may not have been earth shattering, but to them it was. So they have to have had a defining moment when they realize life is not linear, that stuff got in my way, and I'm not letting the stuff beat me. I'm going to be a better person because of it. And then I bring them on, and they do discuss what they've gone through. I've had anything from the death of a family member to, being in jail for underage sex. I mean, it's like unbelievable. Everybody's got a story, guys, and the story doesn't have to be earth shattering for anybody. The story just needs to resonate with one person. So if, regardless of what the topic is, if we can reach one person in the audience and it stops them from any type of self-destructive behavior, then we did our job.
One of the things that as you're talking earlier,
Hmm.
I'm thinking, we're supposed to, provide, we're supposed to do this, we're supposed to, and those growing up years,
Hmm.
right? Don't do this, don't do that, and then the getting up to the teen years, talk about self-image problems, like, you're not the star football player, you didn't even make the
Right.
team, you
Right.
didn't get the best girl in class, and like,
Hmm.
so all of those, are bringing us down.
Absolutely.
And then now you're an adult and you have to, be the best person you can be. It's like, wait a minute, what about that luggage? It's like,
Hmm.
nobody teaches us to drop the luggage and start the day,
Absolutely.
from when you said, this is the day I change and I start doing this and I start making little improvements.
Right.
You couldn't do that if you were still dragging that, the chains with you.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think the most important thing is that when you're a young child, boy, it's important to have a male role model, a father figure, a mentor who you trust and you respect, and who can tell you, this is what I've gone through. I'm not telling you not to do this. I'm just saying that I went through this. If you need somebody, I'm here for you. Now, I had my dad, but my dad grew up in Boston, Massachusetts, with a father who would be able to talk and sit with him, but he died at age 47 of a heart attack. His mother was very stern and not really emotional. So my dad grew up without that emotional thing. So when I sat down with my dad, he had a lot of difficulty speaking to it and wasn't comfortable. And I didn't understand that. So I really couldn't sit and talk with him about emotions and stuff like that. And if I went to my mother, she's not a guy. She didn't, understand what I was going through. So the advice I would get would be what she would do for herself. And so you think about that, parents mean the best, but when they start protecting you, and sheltering you and putting you in that bubble, they're not giving you the tools to, when life really comes at you, to know how to apply things. So yeah, and we don't do it on purpose. But the first thing I'd say is find a mentor. It doesn't have to be a blood relative. It can be any adult who you respect and trust. So as a parent, don't be upset if the kid doesn't want to come to you. You just might not be the
Mhm.
right human being to be the mentor. See who your son or your daughter gravitates to. Make sure that person is safe and trusting everything, and foster that relationship, because it's going to help as we get older. Um, and so yeah, it is a challenge, and most of us don't buck the old belief system. We just go with it because we think we're supposed to. Supposed to. I hate that term, but yeah, we do what we're supposed to do, not what we feel is right.
We
That,
only have a few more minutes left. I'm going to have Oscar ask his final question, but we want you to, after Oscar asks his question, we want you to share with folks how they can reach you and what are some of the ways that you can help them.
Absolutely.
and I don't know, a question. I have an observation where what you're saying is it's okay to struggle. Yes, life's going to give you lemons to make lemonade, but you're going to struggle. No one gets through life without challenges, little challenges, big challenges, 5, 6 challenges that you got dropped in your lap at one time. But there, you need to get through that struggle. There was a study that said, if when butterflies break out of the chrysalis, if you help them before they do it, they will not survive.
Hmm.
So they need to actually struggle to get
Right.
out of that chrysalis
Right.
to become a butterfly. And if you help them, the wings develop correctly and they die. So yeah, we
Right.
have to go
Yeah.
through struggle. Just we got to surround ourselves with people that have gone through struggles that know, they won't say, "Ah, man up." They're like, no, because the guy
Mhm.
that's saying man up is probably somebody hiding a whole bunch of problems that they
Absolutely.
don't want to deal with.
Yeah, it's okay and it's healthy to have emotions. It's okay and it's healthy to struggle. It's not okay and healthy to stay in it. And that's the big difference is take that struggle to catapult you forward. It'll make you stronger. I lived in my struggle for too long, to the point where I believed I was supposed to struggle for my entire life. Uh,
Mm.
so take that struggle, embrace the challenge, then break out of it and go to the next stage. And the next stage, you're going to come with another struggle. Face it head on, but get out of it. So again, it's okay for it to happen. You don't want to sit in it for too long.
There's two things that come to mind when you're going through hell. Speed up,
Hmm.
and the four words that I use a lot is "so what, now what."
So what? Now what? Yep, I love
Yeah.
that.
So what? This
Absolutely.
happened. Done. Now what? What's the next step? Well, yeah, okay,
Yep.
fine. It did happen. And I remember once being late to something and I got a flat tire. And I'm like, all right, so what? Now what? Now I got to change it. I was like an indie pit crew to change that tire to get to where I had it with time. But I didn't sit there like, oh, I
Yeah.
got a flat. Like, okay, so what? I got a flat tire. Now what? Now
I
change it.
want to
Change
add.
it.
I want to add to yours. So what? Now what? And there's probably children watching. So then I say F, two asterisks, K, Y, F, Y. Doesn't matter why, right? So what? What's next? FY,
Yeah.
and go. Yeah, do it scared, guys. Do it scared.
That's all right. Awesome, awesome, awesome. Thank you so much, Drew, for coming on and sharing. This won't be your last time. You know that, right?
I hope
We
not.
have to really dig into. You have so many layers, man. And don't forget the book. Give us the name of that book again. How they can purchase it.
Absolutely. It's I'll have what she's having. Memoir of a Reformed People Pleaser. It's on Amazon. Just look up Drew Deraney. Yeah, it's because I realized I was a people pleaser my whole life, and I'd be at a restaurant and the woman would order something, and I'd want something different, and instead of asking what I wanted, get ordering it, I'd say I'll have what she's having. Not a good way to live. So yeah, so that's how you can get the book, and the podcast is From Caving Into Crushing It. Website profitcompassion.com. I'll share you guys the links to the men's group, the link for our first meeting, and the webinar. I'll provide you with all that.
All right.
Excellent.
Awesome. Thank you for being our guest.
Thank you
We
for having me.
really enjoyed having you. Oscar, any final words?
Happy to be here today with Drew and you. So
All right. We
bring on
will
the
see.
problems. We'll get through it together.
Absolutely. God bless
Absolutely.
you guys.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
God bless you. All right. We'll
There.
take care, everybody, and we'll see you next week.
Bye.